Airport Friday, October 5th on a private plane free of charge. Check out the emotional return we caught on video at rivervalleyleader.com by searching Wounded Warrior on the site. Thank you for joining us in this week's Top 5. Be sure to check back next Friday for a new edition.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Today we hit another Arkansas Razorback football win. Going to break that down in great detail here from John L. Smith, even look at some high school football scores and preview a home-heavy week in the world of high school football. We'll talk about that and much more today on the Sports Blitz.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz today. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton here in studio, the River Valley Leader Studios. Weldon, it's a good weekend.
It was a good weekend.
Even though my Cowboys lost.
We'll get into why they lost and who is to blame for that loss. But what we really like, Mark, is the Arkansas Razorbacks got another victory.
It's never a bad thing when the Razorbacks get a victory, and we'll talk about that 49-7 weather-terminated win. Now, you never heard of that before, but it's the first time in Razorback history that they had a rain or weather-shortened game, and I'm not going to lie to you. It was about time that they called this game.
Yeah, that was rough. I went to sleep. I almost went to sleep after the first delay, 14-0, and then they really couldn't get me back after the next delay because Arkansas was just scoring left and right. They weren't having any problems whatsoever. Defense was getting stopped. Kentucky looked like a junior varsity team. It was just time to pull the plug on that one.
Yeah, there were plays that stuck out in my mind, like the touchdown pass to Javonte Herndon. It was just a little slant.
I know,
and Tyler, it looked like practice. Yeah. It honestly looked like a skeleton run through. Defense, don't knock this ball down. You're just going to let him catch it, and it's just going to get them their rhythm. And that's what it looked like all night long.
It was. And, Mark, when you look at this game big picture, I know some people are going to debate on each side. Well, has Arkansas's last couple of wins, has it been about the opponent, or has Arkansas played better? That's something I really can't wait to get into later today.
Yeah, and that's our poll question today. It's our Honda of Russellville Hog Talk poll question. What have these last two wins done for you as far as your thoughts about the Razorback season? Do you think that the last two wins make you think Arkansas turned a corner, or are they more of a result of how bad the opponent was? Will Arkansas make a bowl now? That's our question. We've got a couple answers, but we want to hear from you. So go to facebook.com/sportsblitz and like that page. Let us know what you think. We've got another poll question today as well that we want you to chime in on. Or you can text us at the Sports Blitz text box at 479-310-5620. We're asking you about the BCS standings that were released yesterday. Obviously, Arkansas is not in those, but the BCS standings were released yesterday. We'll go over those here in just a moment. And we wanted to know, are you surprised? Is there anybody that you'd move in those BCS standings, move somebody up or down? I think it's pretty much consensus, Weldon, right now that Alabama's the best team in the country.
Yeah, you got to go with Alabama #1. I mean, they've been nothing short of dominant. Go back to opening day against Michigan. Then you look at what they've done in the SEC, how they've blown out a juggernaut like Arkansas and things like that. So really, that team Missouri they beat. That was like an NFL victory. I mean, but really, all joking aside, Alabama, they deserve to be #1. I know people look at Oregon and say, hey, come on, Oregon deserves to be #1, but at least we're #2. Oh, wait, they're not even #2. Oregon's 3rd. I know people are a little outraged about that.
Yeah, we'll look at the BCS standings here in just a little bit, as well as some NFL power rankings. Man, there's just a lot that we have to hit today.
Power rankings today. Oh, I know we were working on them.
Well, we can save
early.
It if you want.
We still got a game. We still got a game tonight.
Well, we know that neither one of those teams is jumping into the power rankings.
True.
So
that's true.
we'll look at the BCS rankings. We may save our power rankings, but we've got baseball playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big deal. Derek Jeter, for the first time since 1995, missed a playoff game.
Yeah, Derek Jeter's out, Mark, and it's really tough for the Yankees. I mean, they're now down 0-2. They're not swinging the bats well, and they have yet to face Justin Verlander. And so now you're going back to Detroit. You got to face Justin Verlander. You got to win both of these games, really, in this series to get back into it. And it's not looking good for New York. It's really not.
No, and, I saw an interesting stat, and this talks about the longevity and just how good Derek Jeter has been for so long.
Oh, yeah.
The game that he missed was the first playoff game that he's missed for the Yankees since 1995. He started in that game. Alex Rodriguez was 19 years old and played in that game.
Yeah.
That's how long ago this was that Derek Jeter has missed a playoff game. So I don't like the Yankees, but I do respect Derek Jeter. So
yeah,
it's kind of a tough blow for the Yankees there, and it looks like now they're going to face the best pitchers that Detroit's got to offer, and it's trouble.
Yeah, going back to Detroit, and again, Mark, the point I brought up last week about the Yankees was, I mean, you've got a team that hits the ball out of the ballpark. The Bronx Bombers go back to the days of Babe Ruth, where they're still trying to play that way with A-Rod, Curtis Granderson, all these guys, Robinson Cano. And during the regular season, when the pitchers aren't really scouting you, they're not really breaking you down on a detailed level, it's okay. You can hit the ball out of the ballpark. But it's the playoffs now. Starting pitchers are spending about 30 minutes, 40 minutes per hitter in their preparation. They are finding holes in your swing. They're putting emphasis on every pitch. And in those situations, you can't hit the ball out of the park, that easily. So that's when you've got to be able to manufacture runs. They haven't done it. We all want to get on A-Rod. I mean, A-Rod struggled, but Granderson hadn't been great. Robinson Cano hadn't been great. This whole Yankee lineup has struggled.
We'll look more at the baseball playoffs here in just a moment, but let's start with our the Rack Furniture Warehouse local sports segment. Let's look at some high school football from Friday night. It's a good thing we didn't have Coach Cody on from Atkins, who he would have ruined our streak of talking to coaches before wins, because Atkins came out and fell behind 26-0. We'll get to the Atkins Red Devils here in just a moment, but let's start with the Russellville Cyclones, 20-19 winners over Little Rock Catholic Weldon. The Cyclones just barely hung on for a victory there.
Yeah, Russellville got off to a lead. Looked like they were going to cruise, and then some things happened. Catholic got back in the ball game, and Catholic had a chance. I mean, they had a guy wide open for a touchdown. A play gets called back because of an illegal man downfield. Catholic quarterback scrambled around, and you see that sometimes when a quarterback runs around. But you got to give Russellville credit for holding on. And you see the Cyclones now really building some momentum. I think they've got Little Rock Hall coming up this week. Little Rock Hall has struggled. I mean, they've been mercy ruled multiple times this year. New coach right before the year. I mean, you never want to say a win is a guaranteed, but the Cyclones have a very, very good chance to get another conference win on Friday.
And look at the Cyclones just rolling them off now.
Yeah.
Rolling off wins. We knew that this was going to be the softer portion of their schedule. Just from looking at it, we knew that who were their last two games against? Southside and Greenwood?
Yeah, the big boys.
Is that right? So, yeah, that's a tough little road there at the end, but in the middle, we knew Russellville could make some hay. If they were just able to withstand the tough early season schedule where they were on the road a couple times, and then they could get past Alma and Siloam Springs there on the road, and then they played Conway at home.
Yeah.
We knew that they could have a chance to do some things. Now they've won 3 in a row. Looks like they'll have a chance at Little Rock Hall before they take on Southside and Greenwood at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at these two losses. You had chances after chance.
They lost 17-14 and 21-7.
Yeah, I mean, that Conway game.
And they had a touchdown call back in the Conway game.
Touchdown called back. Jeff Anderson, the running back for Conway, great individual effort on that kick return. Russellville got in the red zone 4 times in that Conway game, only converted once.
I didn't even think about the kickoff return for a touchdown.
And you just think about how Russellville could be. It would not be outlandish to say, I know you could say this in a lot of situations, the Cyclones are only a few plays away from being unbeaten. I mean, and that's really something.
They really are.
But for a team that struggled the last couple of years, they've gotten things together. They're going to go and they're going to get a victory against Little Rock Hall. I feel pretty confident in saying that. And then, of course, you face the big boys in Southside. Southside just played a great one against Conway. So this 6A, 7A Central race, it's going to be fun to watch.
The Cyclones now 5-2. Who would have thought a couple years ago that this team would be 5-2? I'm very impressed and very proud to see the Cyclones playing the way they are. The Pottsville Apaches, we knew they were going to be pretty good. 53-20 winners over Dover. I think I left it was 41-0. I got all the pictures that I needed, and you can check those pictures out, facebook.com/RVL News or rivervalleyleader.com. You can check out those pictures. The Pottsville Apaches win over Dover. It was men amongst boys, really. It looked like a college team playing against a high school team, and I'm not trying to say this in a rude way whatsoever, but just watching the game, there were times where Pottsville would catch a pass in the open field, have a chance to run for a touchdown, and they would wait for a guy from Dover to show up so they could run him over. And they did it more than once. I saw it happen. Corey Campbell had a touchdown, and he knew that the defensive back had an angle, so he just waited for him and ran him smooth over and walked in the end zone. Michael Perry had a first down run, and instead of going out of bounds, he lowered his shoulder and put a guy on his back. That's just the atmosphere in Pottsville right now with Coach Brian Rust is physicality, and that's what they do. It's what they do best, and 53-20 win over Dover. They obviously got it done. And
you wonder, looking ahead, is anybody going to challenge Pottsville in this conference? I mean, they've got Maumelle coming up next. Maumelle's won their last 4 games, but you got to look. I mean, the wins over Waldron and Subiaco, I mean, not a whole lot to speak of there. So if anybody's got the athleticism to maybe match up and give Pottsville some trouble, you may look at Maumelle, but it's even tough to say that at this point. I mean, they look really good. I mean, you look at the other side of this game, Mark, Dover. Still trying to get things going. And I know with the new coach it's tough, but losses week after week, very easy to get discouraged, but you just hope those Dover kids hang in there. Yeah, looking at Maumelle's schedule, they did lose to Fountain Lake, who Pottsville beat, and they lost 12-7 to Jacksonville. They had a North Pulaski game. I guess that was one of the weather days that just didn't get to play, I guess. And then they've beaten Mena 41-29. Pottsville beat them a little bit worse. They beat Waldron, Dover, and Subiaco Academy. But the Maumelle, man, they get their last 3 games against Pottsville, Dardanelle, and Boonville. So show them what they've won. You got 4 games in a row, and then you get to play Pottsville, Dardanelle, and Boonville in a row. So we'll find out what they're made of here in just a moment. Yeah. And the Pottsville Apaches getting to play at home. I mentioned that this is a home-heavy week. There's not one local team, Weldon, that goes on the road except for Danville, who travels to Lamar. Everybody else is at home. So really everything's here pretty much. Everything is right here. This week will be a perfect week to get out and watch your local team. Dardanelle beat Waldron 42-0 on the road. That's an impressive win right there. When you can travel all the way to Waldron from Dardanelle and get a 42-0 win, that talks about your preparation. It talks about, and you can talk about this from a coaching standpoint, it talks about your discipline, and then it talks just about your ability overall. No question about it. And look, Mark, you and I and everybody, we know Waldron struggled this year, and we know that there's nothing to really say, hey, that's a great win over them. But you look at the circumstances of this Waldron victory. You're Dardanelle, you're coming off losses to Pottsville, Boonville. You may be a little bit shaken. Give Coach Price credit for saying, hey, it's not about Waldron. It's about us. It's about us as the Dardanelle Sand Lizards. We got to get back on track. We got to get the job done. You go to Waldron, Mark, and you alluded to it's not an easy, short trip. So, I mean, you got to take a while to travel, get acclimated, get everything settled, and still put a dominant performance on the field. Give the Sand Lizards credit. Definitely. It's a big deal that they were able to get a 42-0 win. Morrilton beat Valonia 40-12. They traveled to Huntsville this week, looked to get another win. Clarksville fell 58-21. Clarksville fell 58-21 to Greenbrier. They're taking on Harrison this week.
Atkins lost 44-26 to Mansfield. They were down 26-0. This is the game that we opened up with. They were down 26-0 before they even knew what was going on. A couple interceptions returned for touchdowns, I hear. Just a bad start for the Atkins Red Devils, and their perfect season goes by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to put a surprise on a game, this may be it. I mean, Mansfield, they weren't really anything special. Atkins coming off a win against Charleston, you expect them to get the job done.
It's a little bit of a hangover.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, there's really no other way to explain it. And turnovers, Mark. We're going to touch on the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit later. Yeah. Turnovers, I don't care what you play. They will do you in just about every single time. And we saw that with Dardanelle. You get in a hole. I think they ended up how many points did they score? 20-something points?
Yeah, Atkins, it was 44-26.
Yes, I mean, Atkins ended up getting in rhythm and scoring points, but at that point, it had gotten out of hand.
Yeah, Lamar came up short 38-25 against Charleston. Now, for what it's worth, I have some youth kids from Lamar said that there were some questionable calls there, but that's just the way it happens when you go on the road. They played against Charleston. Charleston obviously upset about their loss, but to come back against a team who you knew was going to be focused and keep it close, you know, there's something to be said for Lamar. We said last Friday that we knew we'd find out about Lamar, and we know that they're at least they're a challenger. They're competitive. They're not, you know, that wasn't just like they were beating up on the have-nots and then they couldn't hang with the decent teams. They played with Charleston all night. It was a close game till the very end. That 2-touchdown score isn't necessarily indicative of the way the game went.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Lamar showed themselves to be pretty good. I mean, again, I didn't expect them to win this ball game, full disclosure. I wanted to see if they could hang around and be in it and give themselves opportunities to win, or would they just prove to be totally fraudulent and get blown out? And certainly that was not the case. They hung with Charleston, came up just short, so good effort from Lamar.
Danville fell 9-6 to Lavaca. They're traveling again to Lamar. They're the only team that's on the road this week. Hector beat Union Christian 42-17. They take on Decatur at home, and Two Rivers lost 35-8 against Jessieville. They will be at home against Bismarck. All the local teams at home. And if you're a Danville fan, the traveling isn't too bad. You're going to Lamar. So all these local teams will be here and playing in their home fields. I think I'm going to go watch Pottsville play Maumelle just so I can see that athleticism. I may get to watch a little bit of Russellville, Little Rock Hall. I don't know. If Russellville's going to beat Little Rock Hall down pretty bad, I might just go watch a little bit of that and go watch the rest of the Pottsville game. I don't know.
Yeah, if I'm making your travel plans for you, I mean, you'd probably be better served looking at Pottsville. I mean, I expect Pottsville to get the job done, but Maumelle, they do have some athletes they might throw at Pottsville, make it a little interesting. Russellville, I hate to be cocky. I don't want to sound too arrogant talking about the Cyclones, but I would be surprised if they didn't win this game. I'll say that. I'll be surprised if they didn't beat Little Rock Hall. Now, Coach Holt will never tell his team that. He won't let them buy into that. But I'm saying here, sitting on the Sports Blitz, talking about it, Cyclone should win.
I think that Russellville, Little Rock Hall is going to be our River Valley Leader featured game of the week.
Sounds good to me.
I think that's what we're going to do because I think Pottsville was last week's. Obviously, we don't want to go there 2 weeks in a row. We'll go with Russellville, Little Rock Hall, Matt Ketchum. If he's watching right now, looks like that's going to be his assignment this week. Little Rock Hall, Russellville. So hopefully the Cyclones can get another big win. And again, Arkansas Tech, 45-37 winners over Southwestern Oklahoma State. They overcame a 17-point deficit again on the road. That's a big deal, winning 45-37 over Southwestern Oklahoma State. Tanner Marsh, redshirt senior quarterback, 25 of 37 for 424 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then he caught a touchdown on a trick play. So it looks like Arkansas Tech has kind of figured out where their bread's buttered here, and it's Tanner Marsh.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good to have that quarterback situation straight. Certainly when you're up in there at that position, it kind of just trickles down and weighs down your whole offense. And you look at this GAC, Mark, and the Arkansas teams, they look to be sort of the solid part of it. I mean, Arkansas Tech, they've played OBU, they've played Henderson, kind of struggle. Get these Oklahoma schools a little bit and beat up on them some.
Yeah.
Hey, why not?
Might as well. If you can get a win, you might as well go ahead and get one. If you have to come from 17 down, wake up and play, then go ahead and do it. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to hear from John L. Smith, and we're going to get to some talk about the Hogs. I got a bye week, so we've got 2 weeks to get prepared for Ole Miss.
Picture yourself in a living room, your pipe and slippers set out for you.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Sports Scene of Arkansas offers a wide variety of sporting goods and apparel to meet any athlete's needs. Coaches love the top-of-the-line equipment that gives their players an edge, and parents and fans can't get enough of the high-quality screen printing that allows them to sport their favorite team's logo on jerseys, bags, and hats. Your one-stop shop for embroidery, banners, and much, much more. Visit your local team sports specialists. Sports Scene at 316 West Main in Russellville.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
Again, I'm so very proud of our football team and our coaches. They did a great job. They prepped all week long. We had great practices. Our coaches deserve a pat on the back for keeping these guys coming, keeping them practicing hard, keeping them getting better and growing. They've grown by leaps and bounds the last 2 weeks. It's just it's fun to watch. It's really fun as a coach to see young guys just keep climbing that ladder and getting better and better. And sometimes they don't know, and we try to tell them, hey, don't tell them they don't know. But they've been awesome. And that's what I told them right now we have to do again, is take this week, the bye week, and continue to grow, continue to get better this week. And I think we can do that. We have to do that. And then get ready for Ole Miss. But I can't say enough about those guys and everything that they've done. Today was a big day, and that's about it at this point. They had some big night. I'm truly, you know, the way we maintained our focus. We came out, we scored early. We played great on defense early. We maintained our focus at the break, as you might call it, and then came back and continued right on where we were. So proud of our guys. Now we have to just continue on and get better. So.
Talk about the turnaround on defense that we've seen past 2 games.
Getting better. We are getting better, yes. I don't know if it's a turnaround. You know, I wanted so bad to get a shutout. It would have been nice for these guys, but that didn't happen. We gave one up there. But again, we're still making some mistakes, without a doubt. But we are growing. We are getting better. And I think a credit, too, is to our defensive coaches for making sure that we can give them a package that they can handle and that we don't make too many mistakes. So we try to do.
Sorry, John. So Jonathan Williams, big night for him.
Jonathan Williams, yes, he's a tremendous football player. Had a big night, and we like using him a lot, you know, because he can run down the field and catch the football. And plus, he's a real good running back. He's got tremendous vision. He's got things that you don't teach, and one of those things is being a great running back is having great vision. I mean, it's like hit it here and he drifts here, and how'd you see that? And great football players have that. You say, how'd you see that? Well, I don't know. I just did. And so he's like that. And he's going to continue to get better. It's, you know, a lot of those freshmen are playing hard, and doing a good job for us. I mean, he wasn't the only one that had a big night. Tyler's night was good. Kobe's night was good. DJ's night was good. Everybody's night was good. Everybody's night. When you win, everybody had a good night.
When you win, everybody had a good night. But who had the best night? Who was Arkansas's player of the game? That was John L. Smith. We can call him John L. instead of Llewellyn after a couple wins.
Until he gets beat.
Until he gets beat next week, and then it's all over for him. He's back to Llewellyn. It's a good win, 49-7. The Arkansas Razorbacks win over Kentucky in a weather-terminated game. But let's look at some players of the game. Who did you have, Weldon, that stuck out to you? We heard John L. Smith talk about Jonathan Williams. We heard about Tyler Wilson and Dennis Johnson and Kobe Hamilton and some of those guys who had great games. But who stuck out the most to you?
I mean, you could go anywhere, Mark. I mean, you could go a lot of different places with this. I mean, you can make a case for the quarterback, the offensive line playing much better, the defense, any of the receivers.
But special teams player of the week in the SEC, Zach Hawker.
Zach Hawker, special teams player of the week. That may be more of an indictment on the SEC this week in special teams. But I'm going to look at it from a breakout standpoint. I mean, what we saw from other guys was pretty much what we thought they were capable of. But Jonathan Williams, he's a guy, he was one of the running backs we liked coming in. He's a running back that we like moving forward as we usher out, Dennis Johnson, and we'll see what Nile Davis does and Ronnie Wingo and so forth. But 2 touchdown catches. I mean, Jonathan Williams was sensational. I think he's also a good back. It's just being a pure, hand off and run type guy. I think it was his coming out party and for his confidence moving forward. I think it was important for him to have a big night.
Jonathan Williams, man, that was incredible, and it was, I know it was probably a product of just play calling and the fact that, you can get somebody out in the wide open. They can, he did make a couple good moves, though. 3 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns for who we think is going to be a future star in Jonathan Williams as a running back, but he runs we call it the Ronnie Wingo wheel route.
Yeah.
Alabama a couple years ago, he ran it all the time in 2010.
Here's the thing: why doesn't Wingo run the Wingo route anymore?
I think people just know that's Ronnie Wingo. When he comes in the game and he rolls out, well, here's the real wheel route coming.
What happened to Wingo? I mean, we knew he struggled. They used the word struggled.
Yeah, that's
in the running
very
game,
kind.
Running the ball between the tackles, but he can't even get his wheel route anymore. Oh, poor Ronnie.
Oh Lord, Jonathan Williams. Well, he was hidden. You see Jonathan Williams on the field, you don't know how he ain't gonna get it.
Yeah,
and here he goes, wheel route left, wheel route right, 2 touchdowns. Proud of Jonathan Williams. Congratulations on those 2 touchdowns. My player of the week. It's hard for me to go anywhere other than Tyler Wilson. 23 of 31 for 372 yards and 5 touchdowns. A lot of times it looked like he was running the pass scale before the game against nobody. But he did have those 2 nice touchdown passes to Jonathan Williams. He had a touchdown pass to Julian Horton, another one to Javonte Herndon, and then a touchdown pass to Dennis Johnson. I was going back and forth. I was waffling between Dennis Johnson and Tyler Wilson. Dennis Johnson, 12 carries for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. Once again, Weldon, he's proving to be the better Arkansas back. I saw a very interesting stat based on numbers so far this season, and let me find the exact stat. So far this season, Nile Davis has 9 more yards than Dennis Johnson on 42 more carries. So Dennis Johnson has been very, very effective getting his 328 yards, 5 touchdowns in very limited action at 5.9 yards per carry. He's averaging nearly 6 yards a carry with 56 carries, and it's about time, Weldon, it looks like that Dennis Johnson's getting to be the guy, and the reason Nile Davis ended up with more carries in this game is because it got out of hand.
Yeah, and you look at Dennis Johnson and look at his career at Arkansas. I've always been a big Dennis Johnson fan just as a pure running back. I got to watch him play once in high school. I really liked him. I always liked his feet and his balance. He gets to Arkansas, and he has his flashes. He has moments. But then an injury, or he'll be in the doghouse. Seems like there's always
He was
something.
in the doghouse quite often.
Yeah, he's in the doghouse quite a bit. We know about the unfortunate bowel injury that he suffered a couple of years ago. It seems like there's always something preventing DJ from being the guy, being a premier type player. but there's never been a question about when Dennis Johnson's healthy, when he's motivated, when he's not in the coach's doghouse, the guy can flat out play. And it's unfortunate that his success has had to come at the expense of Niall Davis because Niall's carries are going down because he's struggling, but it's great to see what DJ's doing.
And maybe this means Niall Davis comes back for a senior season. I still find it hard to believe. I don't know that he wants to be back in college. He wants to go ahead and make his money.
Yeah.
And after all the injuries and things that he's been through, I don't know that anybody could really blame him. But at the same time, he hasn't been near the guy that he was in 2010. So it's kind of tough to see Niall Davis struggle like this and think, how in the world is this guy going to go pro? Who's going to take a chance on him, knowing that unless he goes crazy in the last 5 games of the season? I guess it's 5 games of the season, starting with Ole Miss, and he's going to have to do it in what looks to be a backup role as Dennis Johnson has taken the reins and has run with it. And hey, congratulations, Dennis Johnson! Isn't he now the all-time leader in special teams yardage? In the SEC, he's definitely Arkansas's all-time leader. So he's taken his opportunities in his 4 years with Arkansas and made the most of them. And now he's getting his chance as the running back of record for the Razorbacks. So congratulations to Dennis Johnson on a very good game. We went with Tyler Wilson and Jonathan Williams as our players of the game, but we could have went in a lot of different directions. Kentucky just wasn't very good, and Arkansas, it was a get-right game for them is really what it was. It was one of those where you can just go ahead and put some points on the board, take care of your business, and go to the house with a win. We asked the poll question today on Facebook, facebook.com/Sports Blitz. What did you think about the game? Where did you let me pick it up here. Do the last 2 wins make you think Arkansas turned the corner, or are they more a result of how bad the opponent was? And will Arkansas make a bowl now? Corey Williams says no, still got them going 5-7. Wes Domry says, I think we've made some decent adjustments and we're on the rise. I got us only losing one more game versus South Carolina, but get the big win at home versus LSU. So I guess that makes Arkansas going to 6-6. And then Robert Ash says it's 50-50. I think there's some improvement, but they aren't winning at South Carolina, Mississippi State, or against LSU. 5-7 seems about right. That's probably where I am right now. Alan Lunningham says slowly improving every week. I think we'll have a big win this season, either South Carolina or LSU. So, well, after the last couple weeks, fans' minds are changing. I mean, a lot of people are still saying 5-7, but there are some people who are jumping on and saying, they're going to make a bowl game. They're going to get a win over South Carolina, Mississippi State, or LSU, one of those, to be able to earn a bowl berth. And it's kind of exciting that after 2 wins against 2, just granted, they're crappy teams. Auburn and Kentucky are terrible. That Arkansas fans have got a glimmer of hope for the rest of the season.
They do have a glimmer of hope, but I'm going to look at it from the players and coaches. And we played John L. Smith's soundbite a little bit earlier, and you could just feel the relaxed tone, the burden. I mean, and he keeps talking about his coaches, and we kind of make fun of him saying, it was good for the coaches. I mean, and you normally don't hear that. But it's clear, Paul Petrino, Paul Haynes, everybody on that staff, they've had the world dumped on them over the past few weeks. No question about it. And they've earned it. Let's be clear. They've earned that criticism. But you could just tell that John L. just felt more comfortable. He felt the burden was off. He said, okay, we're getting stops. We're scoring some points. Had an ease in his voice. And I think that's good. I mean, whether or not that turned into a bowl game or not, I'm not sure. But just as a person, as a coach, I'm just glad to see just a little bit of weight lifted off John L. Smith.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about the fact that it takes a little bit of weight off John L. Smith. And you could tell in the way he was talking that he sounded like he was a little bit cheerier. Just a little bit more happiness in his voice there for John L. Smith. And if anybody could use a little happiness in their life right now on outside the football field, it'd be John L. Smith. Let's go to break real quick. We got a lot left to cover and not a whole lot of time left to do it, so stay tuned.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first rack furniture warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Sports Scene of Arkansas offers a wide variety of sporting goods and apparel to meet any athlete's needs. Coaches love the top-of-the-line equipment that gives their players an edge, and parents and fans can't get enough of the high-quality screen printing that allows them to sport their favorite team's logo on jerseys, bags, and hats. Your one-stop shop for embroidery, banners, and much, much more. Visit your local team sports specialists. Sports Scene at 316 West Main in Russellville. Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
The Arkansas Razorbacks weren't the only team to play on Saturday. Welcome back into the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton here in the River Valley Leader Studios. Weldon, we picked some games on Friday, and we did all right.
Yeah.
We did miss one pretty badly, or I did at least. I had Texas over Oklahoma just because I wasn't quite sold on the Oklahoma offense. Well, I was wrong. Oklahoma put a hurting on Texas in the Red River rivalry, which, you know, traditionally over the last 10 or 12 years, that's just been the way it's been. It's been one team crushing the other. It's not been many competitive games. And Oklahoma, my family was very happy. Some of them were telling me that I couldn't claim my last name anymore because I picked Texas to beat Oklahoma. But the Sooners were able to get the win over the Shorthorns and were able to overcome my picking.
Oh, yeah, this team was ugly. This game, I mean, you look at this Texas team, and I said it on Friday, their expectations are normally that 11-win mark. They knew they were more of a 9-3, 8-4 team this year, and Oklahoma really needed this game. They still have national championship aspirations, and they had to get it done in this game. David Ash is not the guy. I'm sorry. And Case McCoy, who looks like he's going to play now, got beat out by David Ash. So
what does that say about him?
What does that say about him? Oklahoma got back on track. You know, they've lost to Kansas State a couple of weeks ago. Still don't trust them. They do have to go on the road against the team that really looked bad, Mark. West Virginia fell 49-14 to Texas Tech. But you know what, Mark? I picked West Virginia to go the national title game and lose. 49-14 for West Virginia is really not a big deal. I mean, let me explain it. Because when West Virginia plays, it's go big or go home. I'm telling you, they look at 49-14 like losing 27-20. They're like, oh, well, we didn't have it today. We'll just score 60 next week. Oh, well, they got us today. They'll beat us 49-14. I mean, we usually look at margins and, oh, this team won by 3-4 touchdowns. West Virginia doesn't care about margins.
No. They're still going for it down that many in
their own territory. Yeah, I mean, it was bad. Texas Tech's defense is better than I thought. I knew they had good numbers, didn't trust who they had played, but they looked good. Geno Smith looked very human, definitely came back in the Heisman race closer to the pack, but West Virginia still explosive, had a bad day. You know when you play this style of football, you're going to have some days when you're bad. My Mountaineers, we're going to shrug it off. We're shrugging it off.
So do you still have Geno Smith in the Heisman Trophy lead?
I've got him in the lead, but at first it was a dominant blowout. You know, he was far and away ahead of everybody. Not so much anymore. I think you have to start looking at some other guys. I mean, Colin Klein, I'm not a big Kansas State guy. Don't
Me
think
either.
they're great on a national scale, but I will give him his due. Being that Tim Tebow type, grinded, anything it takes to win. They're undefeated, number 5 in the BCS. I'll give it to him for right now. Don't think he'll be there in the end. And there are a few other guys you look at too.
Yeah, right now it looks like Colin Klein, the Optimus Klein, as a lot of people are calling him, and Geno Smith are the two guys that you can pretty much. And you're going to end up with Matt Barkley in New York. There. That's just going to happen. And probably somebody from Oregon, maybe Thomas.
Yeah, maybe.
That'll be Thomas, yeah. That are going to be there in New York at the end. Geno Smith, though, the guy still hasn't thrown an interception all season, has he?
No, I don't think so. I looked at that. It's like, I still don't think he threw a pick. Only 50-something% completion, but
and he was up about 80 before. So that's just incredible. So Geno Smith, let me look at his stats real quick. Yeah, he threw for just a touchdown, but he had 275 yards. He's thrown for, on the season, 2,271 yards, 25 touchdowns, and no picks. That's just freaking incredible.
It is. And
There's just no other way of saying it.
And they got Kansas State this week, too, so that's going to be a very big game.
That is going to be a big game. But you can see how, West Virginia, we can drop it with West Virginia. We both picked them when they lost. I'm very upset about that.
Oh, yeah, we missed that one.
We did miss that one. We did get Stanford, Notre Dame right when Notre Dame's at home. Of course, a lot of people were crying foul about that one, too.
Yeah.
It's a questionable call there at the end.
Yeah, questionable call. The Stanford back. I mean, it's one of those things where if you didn't see the play, the running back in the goal line situation landed on top of a player and rolled around, then ended up squirming in the end zone. They said he was down even though he didn't really touch it. And it's a back-and-forth type deal. You look at it on the replay and you say, well, he got it wrong. And then you hear people throwing, well, his forward momentum had stopped. He was stuffed, and then he got a second burst and rolled in. So it was really the right call. I mean, really just controversy. Then, of course, anything with Notre Dame, we're always going to say it's biased anyway. That didn't help the situation either. But Notre Dame, still undefeated.
They're in the top 10, and we'll look at the BCS standings here in just a moment. A&M did beat Louisiana Tech, which I waffled back and forth on that one, and that was a 59-57 game, so that was a big deal. And then the big one, the one that we couldn't understand why it was picked the way it was, why the betting line was where it was, and we're not necessarily condoning betting one way or the other, but we were kind of wondering how LSU, a top 10 team at home at night, in Death Valley, was getting points against South Carolina. We both picked LSU to win that game outright, and they won 23-21 against number 3 South Carolina. Well, we got what we expected in this game.
Oh, yeah. It was physical. Both teams, great defensive fronts. Each offense had moments but struggled. You're talking about the betting and against the spread. South Carolina, that last touchdown lost a lot of people some money. South Carolina, I think 2.5-point underdogs. Margin.
Oh, South Carolina was an underdog?
Yeah.
I thought LSU was getting points.
No, LSU was favored by 2.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but still, it was looking good. South Carolina scores that last touchdown to make it a 2-point margin, and that hurt. But it's an SEC game, and really for South Carolina, you go down to LSU, tough place to play, tough team. You're still in the driver's seat. I mean, you got Florida. We talked about this 3-week gauntlet. They took care of business against Georgia, couldn't get it done against LSU. Now they've got Florida, who's number 2 in the BCS standings. So South Carolina can still control their own destiny.
Why don't you text us what you think about the BCS standings? We're about to read them off here in just a moment. We asked today on our poll question, what do you think about the BCS standings? What do you think about the Hogs? Send us your thoughts, 479-310-5620. We would love to know what you think about the BCS standings. Let me pull them up right quickly because they came out yesterday, the first standings of the year. Alabama, number 1. Let's just go through from 10 to 1, and Weldon, you can tell me what you think as far as if there's somebody out of place here. USC is number 10, Oklahoma number 9, Oregon State at 8, South Carolina 7, LSU 6, Notre Dame 5, Kansas State 4, Oregon 3, Florida 2, and Alabama 1. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 SEC teams in the top 7, 5, 6 in the top 12 of just the SEC. So that I don't know what that tells you. SEC down? I don't think so. Alabama number 1, Florida number 2.
Yeah, and that's the one that's got people scratching their heads. And here's what people have to understand. It's about right now. Nobody is assigning matchups after week 7 or week 8 in the season. Look at what teams have done. Florida, they beat LSU at home. That's a marquee win. I guarantee you that's the only reason they're ahead of Oregon. I mean, if you look at the eye test, Oregon's better than Florida. I'm sorry. Florida throwing the football, I still think they're suspect. I don't think they're as good as Oregon. But the resume right now says Florida. I mean, look, Oregon hasn't played Stanford yet. They haven't played USC yet. If they can win those games, then come back and show me where Oregon's at. And then I know some people.
And that's why you see Oregon staying number 3, and that's all right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it right now. I mean, if things play out the way we think they are, I don't know about you. You're not sold on Florida as being a top 2 team, are you?
Not necessarily, but I'm Oregon to me. I don't know that I would take them over Florida because it seems like every time, and I think Oregon probably is a better team, but it's tough because every time Oregon plays a big game like that against an SEC team, an SEC defense, a team that's not going to be just in awe of their speed and athleticism, they lose.
True.
Every time.
True.
And it's just the way it's been over the course of history. So if Florida were to play Oregon, it would not surprise me at all if they shut that offense down. But as of right now, like you said, Florida, they're being rewarded for what they've done to this point.
They're being rewarded. And the thing with Oregon, I know what they've done in the past, can't argue with it at all. I would just say, based on what I've seen in my personal opinion, is that the Oregon defense is a little bit better than it's been in the past. I mean, I look at what they did to a Rich Rodriguez Arizona offense. It's been scoring on people, and when you shut them down, that resonates a little bit to me. But as we've been saying, Florida, I don't think they're all that good. I think in the end they're going to lose a couple of games. But if Florida did go undefeated, they deserve it. Already beaten LSU. Then they'll play. They'll have a win over South Carolina. They would have beaten Alabama in the SEC title game if they were to go undefeated. And if Florida did all that, then they would belong. My personal belief is I don't think they will. And if Oregon takes care of business against Stanford and USC, then they'll be there. I really don't see what the big problem is.
You got a text in from a Florida Gators fan, if you can imagine that. Robert texted us and said, was surprised that Florida was number 2 until you look at their body of work. At A&M, at Tennessee, and LSU are 3 great wins. And he has those in all caps, great wins. I think those are good wins. One of them's a great win. LSU is a great win. At A&M and at Tennessee, those are good wins. A&M's a little better. Tennessee's not good. So that's, to me, you got to win at Tennessee. Congratulations. But the fact that they have played teams that are decent and they have played on the road, that gives them the advantage over Oregon. And I don't trust Oregon. I mean, I don't know that I ever will until they beat a really good team in a bowl game, an SEC team to be precise.
Because, look at Oregon's resume right now. I know they play USC and Stanford, but right now, their win over Washington and a win over Arizona. That's the best they can throw out. Arkansas State, Fresno State, Washington State, you're not giving credit for those. So their best wins are Arizona and Washington. That's why Oregon's number 3 right now.
All right, so South Carolina, Florida this weekend. Who do you think's going to win that? I know we're going to give predictions on Friday, but do you think South Carolina will beat Florida?
Boy, that is tough. That is really tough.
Because we've got a text in here that says, I want Florida to finally get some respect from Weldon when they beat South Carolina this weekend.
I'm giving Florida. Look, Florida right now belongs. They've got a better resume than Oregon. I just don't trust them throwing the football. If Driscoll can show me he can consistently throw the ball, then I'm great with Florida. And I think they may even beat South Carolina. I'm not ready to say they won't on that.
All right.
I like the Gators.
I like where your head's at. All right, we're not gonna get to our power rankings this week, which is probably a good thing. We can save that for Friday. But we'll talk about some NFL games. Aaron Rodgers. Those all Aaron Rodgers last night on the Houston Texans, who are our number 1 team in last week's power rankings. We'll break down some NFL games. Dallas Cowboys. Who's to blame for that loss last night? I've got my answer.
Tony Romo.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
It doesn't matter what you're looking for, chances are Good Deal Charlie Discount Furniture has it. From living room, bedroom, and dining furniture to one-of-a-kind pieces, Good Deal Charlie has everything. The staff is pleasant and always friendly, so you'll feel no pressure to buy. With new and used furniture for your home or office, you can find everything you need at the best possible prices at 2209 East Main Street in Russellville. Good Deal Charlie.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first rack furniture warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
AR Sports present the 2012 River Valley Football Magazine, featuring profiles of local high school football teams, as well as college football previews and player spotlights. Professional photography accompanies top-notch writing throughout to bring you the best locally focused publication in Arkansas. You'll enjoy special tributes to local legends Jerry Aiken and Don Sevier, as well as an exclusive interview with Razorback all-time great Clint Sterner in this year's magazine. Available at fine establishments throughout the River Valley. Pick up your copy of River Valley Football Magazine today.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Our Dallas Cowboys fell yesterday. It's time of mourning now.
I don't even know if I want to claim them.
The Sports Blitz folks. It was 31-29. Baltimore Ravens were able to get the win over my Dallas Cowboys. And I had I don't know, it wasn't necessarily a meltdown, but I was a little upset on Facebook and on Twitter because I saw so many people trying to still blame Tony Romo for this. He wasn't great yesterday, but he wasn't terrible. They ran the ball for over 200 yards, and that was what kept them in the game. But he had 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 1 interception, and it was on an overthrow. But for those that watch the game, if you're a Cowboys fan, and it may just be me, being a Cowboys fan and being a little biased, it seemed to me like Baltimore, and they always do this, get away with murder. I mean, they literally will hold you on every single play, just grab you, yank you, and they were holding receivers all day long. Finally got called at the end of the game to give Dallas a chance to kick that game-winning field goal that they didn't make. But that interception, if I'm not mistaken, and you may go back and look at the tape and think something differently, looked like Ogletree was being held when that ball flew over his head. So that interception even, that I don't necessarily blame on Romo. But looking at the end of this game, Weldon, you go into the fourth quarter, there's 32 seconds left in the game. Des Bryant catches the touchdown pass. They're down 2 points. what happens on the 2-point conversion. I was texting Matt Baxley, and I told him they're going to get the touchdown. They're not going to get the 2-point conversion. They're going to lose. Dez Bryant drops the 2-point conversion. I mean, and it's not a bad throw. It's a drop. Dez Bryant dropped the 2-point conversion. They somehow get the onside kick. They get a pass interference call on first down. They're in position with a timeout, with time on the clock. All they've got to do is get probably 10 more yards to make this a safe field goal, because at the moment they're at 51. You make it about a 41-yard field goal, you're a little more – well, I'd be a lot more confident that you're going to make this kick. And some mind-numbing stupidity hits the Cowboys. Call it Tony Romo's fault if you will. I'll call you wrong if you do. But Tony Romo looks to the sideline after a run, and Jason Garrett's got his play sheet up over his mouth so that nobody can see him not calling timeout and letting time just roll off the clock. And this idiot who is unfit to be a head coach in the NFL doesn't understand that the clock is still rolling. Romo's looking at him like, Coach, do you want us to call a timeout or do you want to give us a play? They've already had 3 or 4 different plays late in the game where time's just melting off the clock and they need to score, they need to hurry, and they can't get a stinking play in because the coach doesn't have one ready. He doesn't have 2 or 3 plays, and you're going to speak to this here in just a second. But at the end of the game, just terrible clock management. I know a lot of people want to point to Romo and say, well, you're the general on the field. You've got to make this happen. He doesn't call the plays, folks. He doesn't call 2 plays in the huddle. He doesn't call any play. He runs the play. He audibles to a different play if he has a different play. But when he looks to the sideline with 10 or 15 seconds left and a chance to throw the ball to the sideline, get out of bounds, make this a more makeable field goal, or stand there and let the clock just roll because the coach doesn't know what he's doing, he is at the mercy of his coach. And the clock just melted down, long story short, or a long story a little longer. Field goals missed. Dallas loses the game. A lot of people want to blame Romo, and I'm not one of them.
Quick question for you, Mark. Of all the criticisms that you heard of Tony Romo yesterday, was that the most prevalent one? He's the general, that was on him. Was that? I'm just asking you, like, you know.
Well, I heard a lot of people who were trying to blame both of them, and I don't ever give Tony Romo no blame.
Right.
He always gets some of the blame because he makes some of the dumbest decisions sometimes. But yesterday, to me, the blame at the end of the game, the onus is on the coach. Especially when your coach is your offensive coordinator.
The reason I asked you that question is because if that's the only blame, then that's absolute garbage, and I don't buy it. Look, what I'm saying to you and what I'll say to everybody else is these things are scripted. And when I say scripted, I'm talking about back in July and August. This is how we handle every situation under a minute, under 30 seconds, 2 timeouts left, 1 timeout left. All of it is scripted. All of it is understood. When you're in the Cowboys situation, you've got seconds on the clock. You've got 1 timeout. If you want to save that timeout, which is understandable, then what you do is you call 2 plays in the huddle. You run a play. You get back on the line. You immediately know what the next play is. Therefore, you're managing time efficiently, and you're keeping your timeout so you can use it for the field goal attempt. Tony Romo would be aware of what was going on. If he and Jason Garrett would have sat down and said, okay, Tony, it's automatic. We're in this situation. We want to burn a timeout. Tony would have known that. He wouldn't have had to look to the sideline and say, Coach, what do you want? What do you want? And then, even if they hadn't, Jason Garrett would have called the timeout instead of looking like a bump on the log on the sideline. It was absolutely ridiculous clock management. Tony Romo's done a lot of boneheaded things. And in fact, I've said I like Romo as much as you, but if they can find somebody who they know can be better, I wouldn't have a problem with replacing Tony Romo. But I can't give yesterday to him. Jason Garrett, ridiculous.
And it's a shame it wastes 92 yards from Felix Jones, 93 yards from DeMarco Murray. Just an excellent running game from the Dallas Cowboys. on the road, had a chance to win the game.
It's a good team.
It's kind of upsetting. Real quickly, let's run through a couple other games that were interesting. Can't believe that the Giants put a 26-3 beatdown on San Francisco. Green Bay 42-24 over Houston, 6 touchdown passes from Aaron Rodgers. Tennessee, that was the Thursday night game, beat Pittsburgh 26-23. Washington, good Lord, what in the world are they doing? They beat Minnesota. Yeah. RG3 is the overall leading scorer in fantasy football. I saw Atlanta survives Oakland 23-20. And, I mean, just a plethora of good games. The Detroit Lions beat the Philadelphia Turnovers 26-23. It was just an incredible day of football, and that's probably not even the best game. Seattle 24-23 was probably the best game over New England.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glancing at these games. Philadelphia losing to Detroit. We know with Andy Reid, Michael Vick's, a lot of drama with that. We'll see how that unfolds. Falcons, my Super Bowl pick. They haven't looked good. They're undefeated, but I don't have a lot of confidence in them right now. New England going to face the 12th man in Seattle. That's secondary. They had a chance to win. Tom Brady, if he could have just ran the clock out, he couldn't. Russell Wilson hit Sidney Rice for a bomb down the field. Packers get back on track against the Texans. I kind of had a feeling that one would go that way. But my main one was the San Francisco 49ers. Love their balance. I love how they run the football. Love their defense. But when they get behind, it is a problem, and that's something we could see bite them long term.
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely have to pay attention to. We've made our power rankings, but we'd love to hear from you. You can text us 479-310-5620. We'll be back on Wednesday to talk more about this. We'll prepare for the Thursday night NFL games, or the NFL game, excuse me, and we'll talk about plenty more. Arkansas has no game this week, so we really don't have a whole lot to preview with the Razorbacks. We can just talk about some breaking news, and we'll have a little bit more time to talk about everything else. Weldon, I'm sorry we didn't get it all in today.
Hey, well, that's why we got Wednesday.
That's what we're here for. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11. Come back and join us.
Like it's pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile. Smile.